Welcome to the Cinema 9 podcast. I'm Michael Govier. To my left is Travis Roy, although it's a virtual left. It's not my actual left. But, you know, you get the gist. If you're watching live, thank you for tuning in. YouTube, Cinema 9 podcast. You can subscribe there. The channel continues to grow, and we appreciate your patronage. And, of course, the podcast crew. We never let you guys out of our sights. We very much care about our podcast people as well. No Eric Branstrom today, Travis. It's just going to be you and me, the first time we've ever done a show together. What do you think?
I think it's nice. I mean, I of course miss Eric when I bid him hello to wherever he may be. I won't divulge his whereabouts. He's on secret.
It's a big
mission.
secret. Yeah.
I think he already said on the show where he was.
He's with the Annihilators. They're on a secret mission right now. So.
Yeah, they're in Georgia. And anyway, but no, I think it's nice to do an episode because me and Eric got to do just an episode together once, and now you and I get to do an episode. I don't know if you and Eric have done one, just the two of you yet, but you shall, I'm sure. Once
you're always here. You're basically always here. You're definitely the most reliable of the three of us, I would say.
I mean, I like my routines. You know, I stick to my routines pretty closely.
I love a good routine. There's no doubt about it.
I love a good roast.
So if you're interested in what we think about Wag the Dog today, you'll find out about that a little bit later in the show. Does it hold up or not? Did it predict the future? Is it a movie that was beyond prescient? Or is it just kind of middle of the road trash? That's why we do the show, and you will find out later on. I'm not giving my hand away just yet, but, you know, you just have to wait.
Wait.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it's been a couple of days now. This is a movie podcast, and Will Smith slapped the shit out of Chris Rock. So, I mean, I guess we got to talk about it, don't we?
Wow, dude.
Do we have to? Do we
Not
have
really. We don't have to so much.
What's telling about the whole thing is that, you know, the conversation isn't, hey, the Oscars happened, or hey, Coda won Best Picture.
Yeah.
Or, hey, the Oscars thought that we wouldn't want to see Denzel Washington give Samuel L. Jackson a Lifetime Achievement Award. So they didn't even air that. No, none of that's a conversation. It's just some motherfucker hitting some other guy who made a joke he probably shouldn't have. And said some other dumb thing. Yeah, a shitty joke. And said some other dumb things that night as well. I will say this about the Oscars. I'm glad that it was at the Dolby Theater. I'm glad that there was clips. And I guess I can leave it at that.
Yeah, you weren't a big fan of the whole thing overall beyond the Chris Rock bullshit.
I really felt like pandering. I mean, I know that they ended up having like double the viewership of the year before, but I think that, you know, there was a lot of reasons why the viewership was so low the year before. I just thought that there was so much about this year that just felt like they were really trying hard to like manufacture moments that people will chat about. And then of course there's scandal, and that's all anybody could talk about. I think Twitter literally broke that night. I mean,
it did.
Yeah, understandably so. But then we all collectively at once wore ourselves the fuck out on it. So if you're listening to this months from now, sorry to be reminded of this fucking stupid cultural event.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
That's what we all learned from this. Don't talk about other people's significant others.
Did you know she had alopecia?
I had no clue.
I had no clue. I don't
keep up on these
Instagram.
things. Yeah.
I don't give a shit. First thing I ever saw her, and she had a buzz cut. I had no fucking. I'm like, okay, Jada Smith.
Thought you looked pretty good with that hair.
I thought she looked great. Yeah. Whatever.
I thought it was a choice.
Yeah. I mean, comedians say dumb shit. Smacking like slapping a grown man across the face when you know you're on one of the most widely viewed things live is a stunning choice.
It is a stunning choice. And he also knew that he was a heavy favorite to win Best Actor award.
His speech was just like him, like, so I hit that man a moment ago, and let me tell you why I did that and why it's okay.
Yeah. Let me validate it. Let me try to rationalize it with this character I played. You know, he really cared about his family, and, you know, I became this guy so much that I just couldn't help myself.
And then, of course, the guy himself comes out like the next day and was like, that wasn't cool. Richard Williams was not a fan of that move.
Nobody,
you know, and then the Academy asked him to leave, and he wouldn't. He just glad-handed everybody and interfered with everybody's speeches the rest of the night and getting up, you know, just like overcompensating. I don't know. It was ugly.
You know, my take on it is I'm just a fan of chaos, and when things don't go according to the script, it's always going to be my thing. I enjoy that. So much monotony in this life. Everything's so routine at times. It's refreshing when something crazy and stupid happens out of the blue, and only because I got to see it live in real time. If I had not been able to see it like that in the moment, it would not mean nearly as much to me, but I'm just so grateful that I just happened to turn on the Oscars. You and Eric are the bigger Oscar fans who watch more frequently than I do, and I took the red eye from Vegas Saturday night, Sunday morning. I slept all day, and I just happened to catch it, and I'm grateful for that silliness. When I can always remember myself because I'm sitting in the same chair I was at that moment. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? It was just so bizarre to me. The audio was dead, and that made it more weird. It also proved how America's so uptight and prudish still. Other countries, they just, who gives a fuck? They even cut out the spitting. He spit when he was giving his Oscar speech, victory speech.
Oh, really?
Apparently, yeah, they cut that out.
He spit
ABC,
on the stage?
I don't know why he did. Like, he just spit on the floor during his speech. So that
fuck? It's not your backyard.
That's gross. Yeah, it's completely unsanitary, especially with COVID, but it still just speaks a lot about our Puritan background in this country where that's not even allowed to be seen on the air. Very weird. Very strange that you would.
I mean, maybe they're still trying to protect his image. Like, you already hit a man on live TV. Maybe people don't want to watch him spit indoors. That's just weird. I mean, if you're spitting indoors at a Walmart, I'm going to think you're an asshole.
Yes, that is very true. In fact, I think it's kind of one of the underrated points of the entire night that was edited out. I haven't seen a clip of that. So
I do have a hot take. I do have a hot take tonight.
Okay.
And, a lot of people have gone on about how touching and sweet it was that Lady Gaga had that moment with Liza Minnelli. And it was, but I mean, to me, I'm like, I question Liza Minnelli's ability to consent to be on that stage. And, you're an actor. You have made your life like presenting yourself to your audience. You have all these fans. You might never be on a stage again like this at the condition that she's in. You think she wanted to go out there and be like, I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. Like, I felt bad for her. I felt like that was not a choice that she made. And it was just, I don't know. Like, it was just like, I'm not saying like hide people who are having like cognitive disabilities or anything or, issues, but I mean, she clearly wasn't able to do what she had intended to do, and she didn't really understand what was going on. And it didn't seem right to me, I guess. I just can't imagine her consenting to that, but what do I know?
I guess I hadn't thought about it like that. I don't know exactly what's going on with her. Clearly she had some cognitive deficiencies. So that's a fair point. That's very fair. Lady Gaga wants to have her moment with every old ass celebrity left, Tony Bennett and Liza. It's a strange fetish, I think, actually.
I don't think it's a fetish. I think I think she's someone, I mean, like a lot of people our age, I think that she has a lot of affection for boomers and for, that generation's music and culture and stuff, just not necessarily the same people that we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the more I think about that now, it's the final moment of the night, best picture moment. Coda wins, and that whole exchange was bizarre, but Coda did win, and I can't believe it. I'm still surprised. I really didn't think, I know it started to build more momentum as we got closer to the presentation, but I really did not think it would win because of all the backdoor politics about streaming and Hollywood wants to preserve the past. And it being an Apple TV product, I just did not. I thought that would really hinder it, and I don't know if we'll look back 10 years from now and say that was the best movie of the year. What do you think?
I was very happy that it won. The other front runner was also a streamer, Power of the Dog, which I did not want to see win personally. I wouldn't have been mad about it, but my top choices for Best Picture were Coda and Drive My Car, and they both won at the end. So I was happy with that.
I liked Coda. I said that here on the show when I watched it a couple weeks ago. It was a rock solid film. It'll probably hold up a lot better than maybe The Artist, which won like 10 years ago. I've still never seen that.
I've thought about bringing it on the show a few times because it's definitely become a movie that no one talks about. Speaking of Wag The Dog, I'm sitting here with my new puppy. This is Mara. Introduce her to the world.
Hi, Mara. Welcome to the show, Mara. It's great to have you here.
She is a little baby and will cry if I leave her on the floor. So she's going to hang out with me. I miss Rooney very much, but decided that I just could not live without two dogs. And Scruffy, as always, is to my left, but you can't see him.
Hey, it's great to have Mara as part of the show now, and we welcome you. And if there's anything we can do for you, Mara, just let us know here at the Cinema 9 podcast. We do our best to appease everyone. Of course.
Speaking of cognitive issues, it's a real shame about Bruce Willis, but it does explain why he's had such a run of movies where he showed up and did like 2 lines or like 5 minutes of the movie for like the last 10 years, because this has been an ongoing thing for him for some time. Apparently, he announced it just today or this week that he's retiring from acting because of this dementia issue, but apparently it had been building up for some time.
Yeah, I'd never heard it. Aphasia, or I've never heard of this term.
I had not either. I mean, I guess it's a form of dementia where you can't understand speech.
Oh man, aphasia. Yeah, that sucks. He did cram in 8 movies last year, like straight to demand.
And clearly the dude was just like, I got to make bank. I got to make hay before the sun goes down here. And that's just like, well, it puts all those shitty movies in perspective in a whole new light. It's like, oh, well, that makes sense then.
We did have the Pulp Fiction crew at the Oscars with Travolta, Samuel Jackson, and Uma Thurman. Yeah, and him not being there, maybe he didn't feel comfortable already. Who knows where he's at, frankly. He's also... I don't wish this upon him, of course. He has been a contentious dick at times on sets over the years. That doesn't mean I'm glad this happened to him. I just know that maybe in a way he felt awkward about it, and then he felt awkward about the fact that he couldn't really be the Bruce Willis that people remember him by. And, I have a complicated thoughts about his legacy because he really was on a trajectory to be a legendary actor, and I don't necessarily know if I'll look at him as that as time goes on. I'll need more time still, but he was a good actor. He's a solid actor, but I feel like he had a chance to be great, and it didn't quite work out that way.
I think that he had done some interesting stuff, and probably I think that this has been going on for a while. I mean, for one, he had kind of a dip, but I think that, from what I've read, it's been like 10 years or so of this coming on. So
Jesus.
So I think that, it's been going on for a while, and that has affected the roles that he's taken. I think that he maybe would have taken more interesting roles, and also dementia can make you extremely cranky, extremely angry. But either way, I mean, all kinds of great actors are, dicks on set. I'm not gonna. I mean, I don't approve of it, obviously, but I'm not gonna. I don't know that
we do not condone it,
right? But I've never, I'm not really hung up on it. So long as you're not like, I don't know, killing people, assaulting people. Live on TV or otherwise, I'm not really usually that concerned to it.
I watched a retrospective on Kevin Spacey last night. It was those Joe Blow YouTube channel. What the fuck happened to so and so? And Kevin Spacey was the focus of this one.
All know what happened to Kevin Spacey.
It's not really like a spoiler alert on that one, but I did find out he's got 2 movies in the hopper. So I don't know.
They have been in the hopper or recently.
They are in the hopper right now. So. I don't know if they're going to come out or not.
I can't pretend I'm not interested in a new Kevin Spacey movie.
Yeah. It's weird too. People died that accused him. It's really
I have heard that recently.
That did happen.
Yeah. That's a little weird. I mean, people
Anthony
die.
Rapp's still alive. I don't know.
Yeah. People die. That does happen.
They do.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
And it's one of those things with him. There's been no convictions, but there's so many allegations. It's like, okay, clearly,
It's not
and
like
settlements too. Like once they start settling, it's like, oh, that's like.
And he put out those really bizarre videos for 3 straight years around Christmas Eve, which was just not a good look for him. So.
I loved them. I can't believe I'm admitting this.
What?
But
You did.
I mean, like not like I loved them. Like I thought they were good. I just thought they were like it kind of looked the same way that you were talking about how like the slap was off script and shocking and like it kind of woke you up a little bit. And that's kind of it's so surreal to me. Like that he was doing these videos and as fucking Frank Underhill, whatever the fuck his name was.
Underwood. That's right.
Yeah, Underwood. It's just like so many layers of weirdness and. Just like shocking.
That's true.
I can't pretend like I wasn't compelled to watch everyone that he released. I mean, I'm not like, oh, good, I love this. I did just say I love this. But,
I did see them all. That's true. I was curious about it, and I think
ashamed to admit it.
Yeah, this whole that's okay. I appreciate it. In fact, I have more respect for you for being honest about it because there are so many layers and complications with all of these public
Yeah.
debates about who did stuff to who. It's, I'm not saying it should all be private, but if it just gets really murky at times. There are real stories about people that really were assaulted or abused and exploited, and that's awful. And then there are people who have been proven to lie about those to gain fame or to gain money. So it creates this world where we as regular Joes, so to speak, on the outside, absorbing this. I don't know what to make of it half the time, because I believe people, but then at the same time, I know people lie to gain certain benefits, and it just makes me wish that a lot of this stuff was litigated clearly and properly in a court of law or through some process that was legitimate. It's just out there on Twitter. It's just out there in the world on YouTube. Anybody can talk about anything at any given time, and it makes my head want to explode. That's all. And I'm just grateful that, I don't have to be a part of that. So
yeah, and if only there was any movies that existed that discussed the topic of how media might, be manipulated and in turn manipulate the American public and our perceptions. If only such a film existed, and if only one of the actors in said film had allegations themselves against them, like Dustin Hoffman, for instance.
I wish we had an opportunity like that. Yeah, totally. I guess we'll never have that chance. That sucks.
Never gonna happen.
But I'm glad Coda won. So congratulations, Coda. That guy who won Best Supporting Actor, he was fucking great in Coda, and I'm really glad that he won. And feel bad that I don't know his name right now.
Troy Kotsur.
Hey, Troy Kotsur, congratulations! You killed it. You were great in that movie. It was so refreshing to see a deaf person, doing this, jerk off signals, and just being regular people that talk dirty and they do dumb shit. There seems to be this, like, deaf people were put on a pedestal as like they couldn't be regular or normal people who had pain or anger or talked about fucking. Deaf people fuck, everybody. Breaking news. I thought it was refreshing.
Well, yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why it won, is that it does. It's not like one of those movies that takes some marginalized group and that's all that exists for that story. It's just the, like the whatever
everyday routine.
Right. It's just, they're just people, and it's a very human kind of movie. And I was happy that it won. I was really happy that it won. So there was some ups. There was definitely some ups with this Oscars. I said it was like, it is literally one of the worst I've seen in my lifetime. And I've watched every Academy Award since I was a little kid. It really was.
Well, last year was pretty bland, wasn't it?
I would say last year and this year are probably the two worst, but that may be some recency bias, but working against it. I'm not sure, but it was bad. But there was
last year was boring as fuck. So.
Last year was boring and just awkward with the no clips and where it was and Glenn Close twerking and all that shit. But this one, the outcomes were good. I was actually happy with a lot of the outcomes of the awards, which were nice. A lot of the other accoutrement was not for me, but whatever. Can't have everything. So
wow, dude.
I was happy that Hans Zimmer finally won an Oscar, so that's cool. 30 years of validation.
Yeah.
That's great.
Diane
I couldn't believe he never won. I didn't know that.
Diane Warren lost her 12th nomination. The look on her face when she lost, I'm so sorry, Diane. I'm so sorry. We'll get him next time.
And Kenneth Branagh won for Belfast.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen.
That's good. Congratulations to him. He seems like a guy that's, he's had a good career, right? It's basically one of those career Oscars. Like, hey, you've been around a long time. You did some good work. Congratulations.
Like you.
I didn't see Belfast, friend. So I don't know. You're our friend. That
was a you're our buddy. You wrote a movie kind of thing. Oh, you wrote a personal movie, huh, buddy? Here, buddy, have an Oscar.
You're one of us. You're one of us. We owe it to you. So, did you see Belfast?
Yeah, it was great. I don't know that it was best script. Great, but I did think it was going to win. I did like it.
Okay. Well, the Oscars come, the Oscars go. Next year, who knows what'll happen? It'll probably be less entertaining and more by the book. Who knows? But we're glad that they spread the Oscars around to a lot of different people, and that was pretty good. I agree with Travis on the outcomes overall. Let's get to the court.
Security next year. Strong security in the front row, maybe bouncers with their backs to the front.
Yeah, will they be in the pit? Will they come running up out of the pit because they don't want to be seen directly? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Large men in security t-shirts is my prediction next year.
Yeah, yellow, bright yellow ones like you see at Las Vegas. No email today, so thank you for that. If you want to email the show, cinemaandipod@protonmail.com. We always prefer emails if you so desire. Of course, you could drop a live chat comment here if that's tickles your fancy. But let's get to quarantine viewing picks. Travis, you are on the clock. Take it away.
I watched a lot of movies. I'm going to be watching a lot of movies. I'm on sort of a break here for a while, so got a lot of movies in. You know, when you watch a movie or you don't watch a movie because you're like, oh, I saw that, it was okay, and then you finally go to watch it again, you're like, oh, I've never seen this in my life. Well, I did that with 2017's The Post. Somehow I just totally got it confused with Spotlight, I guess, or something, and never saw it.
Not surprising.
Yeah, I just never saw it, and then I went
Oscar bait.
Yeah, and I figured I'd seen Oscar bait. Somehow I just missed it, and I showed it to my students, thinking again that I had seen it, because everything I show my students for the most part, I've seen it before I show it to them, and
sure,
I was like, I was bland, but I'm like watching, like, I have not seen this, but it was good. I want to give a shout out to our co-host, our much missed and beloved co-host Eric Brandstrom, because he has lately been saying some very funny things about Janusz Kaminski, the regular cinematographer of Steven Spielberg, and I'm like, this movie's years old now, and Eric is so right. Every fucking shot, if it's daylight, it looks like aliens are invading from the outside. Like any interior shots, if there's daylight streaming through, it's like spotlights. It's just like, oh man, it's just so distracting. I'm like, what is going on with Janusz Kaminski? But it was good. I revisited Moneyball. That was good. That was better than I remembered. It's one of those movies that people kind of talk up, and I'm like, was it that good? But it's a really subdued movie that is, it's nice. It's nice. It's not great. Yeah. It's good. It's good.
It's okay.
Yep. Revisited Argo. That was fun.
Appropriate.
Yep. I took a note from you, and I really, really tried to watch MacGruber, and because you've talked this movie up, I turned it off. And the next day I'm like, I'm going to try again. So I sat down, I turned it back on where I picked up where I left off, and I turned it off again.
Really? It's just not funny, huh?
I did not laugh once. I got about maybe a third of the way, halfway through, but I wasn't laughing at all. And I was irritated. Like I did not care for it at all, but I tried just for you.
I appreciate the effort. I'm surprised. I thought you would laugh. I don't know. I'm lost here. I'm confused.
Just wasn't for me. Didn't make me laugh. I checked out Fresh, the new Sebastian Stan horror made for Hulu. I really liked it. Sebastian Stan is a good villain. This was a solid gory horror movie done a little bit differently. I would definitely recommend Fresh. On my Nick Cage journey, I checked out Peggy Sue Got Married. I cannot believe Francis Ford Coppola directed this thing. It fucking sucks. I mean, it sucks. Not good. Just, I mean, maybe I'm being harsh, but I mean, even I was annoyed by Nick Cage's performance in this movie. The way he talks the whole time. I'm like, why? What is this voice? What is this blonde hair?
I'm so glad you brought this up. I wish I would have brought this up last week. I also watched a retrospective on Nicolas Cage last night, and I totally see Christian Haraminski in the younger version of Nick Cage. That one in particular, the 80s, mid 80s, like Raising Arizona kind of ends there. I so much saw Christian in him. I was like, whoa, it just hit me so hard. I'm going to have to do a comp. I'll have to put them side by side and see if I can find the right pictures. I'm telling you, it's in there. It's really in there.
I don't see it, but I trust you.
All right. Younger, very young Cage, by the way. So.
Yeah. I watched some other movies. I watched Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot. Probably one of the better Gus Van Sant movies I've seen. I liked that. It was good. Jonah Hill was great, and Joaquin Phoenix.
Powerful moment in that kitchen, man. That's a powerful moment.
And I didn't know anything about John Callahan. I knew nothing.
Neither did I.
It was cool to watch someone's memoir brought to life, and someone that I knew nothing about, but he's important to some people. And I thought it was a good movie. So I liked that one. What else did I check out? The Good Night. Don't watch that, from 2007. Jake Paltrow. Walk away from that movie. Don't watch it. The Humans from 2021. A lot of people like this movie. It was a Showtime film with Richard Jenkins and Stephen Yeun and Amy Schumer, based on a play, really strongly directed from a first time. Like the guy that wrote the play, they let him direct the movie, and he did a great job. The movie itself, I thought, was pretty slow but unique. unique. And last but not least, and I'll wrap it up here, Old Henry, which was a lot of people's, I've talked to a few people that thought that was one of the best movies of 2021, including Aaron Chud Pud Worley, and Eric really liked it too. Old Henry, it's nice to see Tim Blake Nelson in the lead, and this was a real solid Western. If you haven't seen Old Henry, definitely put that on your list. It was good.
Old Henry.
Old Henry.
Was there a movie in the mid-90s called Fresh?
Yes, different Fresh. This is a different Fresh.
There was sure wasn't crazy.
Wasn't that? I never saw it, but I want to say it was Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, it was more of like something. It reminds me of what we watched. Spike Lee movie that we did that you picked.
Clockers.
Yeah, it's like along that type of genre.
Yeah.
But either way, fresh. Okay, cool. Travis watched some movies. That was fun. And I watched some movies as well.
What'd you watch?
I did a solid number. I'm proud of myself. By the way, the original Fresh was from 1994. Yes, with Samuel L. Jackson.
All right.
Yeah, good call. Giancarlo Esposito. All right. Maybe I have to check that out.
I mean, I've never seen this movie. Why would I know this? Why do I know these kind of things?
I know. It's so funny that we do. Why don't formulas for chemistry equations stick in our head, but this shit does. I really don't understand why that is. There's probably a paper about that. So I went and finally watched the Spider-Man. I did it.
Oh, you did? In theaters?
And yeah, and
you didn't like it.
I gotta tell you, man, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. And I know it was cool to see everything that was done in that movie and how it was brought together. It was so cool. Spoilers here, because I'm gonna talk about a few things. Spoilers if you haven't seen it. It's been a few months. It's cool to see those villains come back. And I was like, oh, wow, all right, yay. And Doctor Strange is involved, which, makes sense that the multiverse would be accessed through him. But some of the gadgets, like this cure that they were creating, it's just like it happened out of nowhere.
Well, that wasn't what's cure for Green Goblin?
For all of them, like all these cures, they're just like, here's the cure you put on Electro that'll cure that. And then it loads up, and but I'm like, where do they get all this shit from?
Yeah, but well, I mean, for one, you had 3 Spider-Men working together, which this movie was the first movie in a while to highlight the fact that Peter Parker's a scientist. That's one. I mean, he's true. He is a scientist. It's been a while, so you got all 3 of their brains together, and once Doc Ock is freed, hey John
Andrews, hey buddy,
getting a shout out from John Andrews. Nice.
Good to see you, John. We love you.
And once we're going to keep with the spoilers going. Once Doc Ock is freed, he's able to help out, and he does. And also, another scientist is Norman Osborn, who half the time is himself, and he's able to contribute as well. So, like it literally is like 5 great minds working together to come up with these things. And some of
you're selling yourself on it. You're right.
I'm right.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker talks about how he'd literally been thinking about it for like a decade or more. So, I mean, some of this stuff, like, it made sense to me, but I was a little overwhelmed the first time I watched it and had to go back to watch it again before I really knew how I felt about it.
Okay. Yeah, that is definitely going to be my case, because then by the time we get to the big showdown, the Statue of Liberty, and I honestly was like overwhelmed, and I didn't even get what was happening, why the world was breaking. It really was. So I guess I just kind of felt like, whoa!
I've lost y'all. Someone lost someone.
Am I dying?
Who got lost there? You or me?
Am I still here? I feel like I'm still here. I never saw you go away. I heard you the whole time. So
how are you not yourself?
How am I not myself?
You're back anyways.
I'm back.
Your internet did an Eric. In honor of Eric, you just kind of froze and faded out for a minute, then came back. So
unbelievable. Well, we'll find out the truth when we release this recording. Was it me? Was it you? Who knows? That's a game we play at Cinema 9. We never know who it is. But I will tell you,
we blame.
We better. Someone has to take responsibility.
You find that guy.
You find that man. Didn't drink Coors Light. I guess I just got overwhelmed, and that's it. So I'm going to watch it again. It does deserve a repeat viewing because, woo! I took in the Batman with all the shit that's going on in that. That was 3 hours. Spider-Man was only 2 hours, 28 minutes, and I was more confused. So,
well, Spider-Man, you got the Sinister Five, and then 3 Spider-Men and Doctor Strange. There's a lot going on in that movie.
There is. But I thought it was cool that he defied Doctor Strange kind of naively, because he is a teenager still. He's still growing, and he thinks he can do things because he's got that idealism of youth. And that part I really dug about the script and the movie. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And he's challenging. We got Doctor Strange versus Spider-Man. This is wild. And I like that. That was cool. So I don't have like a clear-cut opinion on the movie, frankly, other than I'm just a bit confused still.
Yeah,
so.
catch it again when you can stream it. And I mean, that again, I think that's what I had to do. So maybe that'll be true for you too.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, so I watched Spencer because you watched Spencer, and a strange movie in a way, but I did enjoy it. Kristen Stewart was incredible as Diana, Princess of Wales. It's really just it's like a 3-day in the life of moment. It's not really like over time or many years from beginning to end.
Kind of like being the Ricardos. I think it's like Lincoln. It's kind of nice to for a docu pic or a biopic. You kind of like just go in there for a few days. You're not going to cover everything. Just spend a moment with them.
I agree. Yeah, and it was very extravagant and everything you would expect from that world. People forget that Diana came from a very wealthy family too. Possibly, I feel like maybe that gets forgotten. That's why she was chosen too. They don't just choose any geek off the street, if you know what I mean. But well done, solid movie. I'll go back and watch Jackie after this to see how it compares. Because
what'd you think of that score?
I thought it was solid.
I love that score. I thought it should have won best. Well, yeah, I think it should have won best score.
But I don't really recall it right now, so I guess it didn't hit me that hard. But I will maybe go back and check it out again. I watched The Tender Bar, which is kind of boring.
Yeah, bland.
Yep.
That's my one-word review.
Great to see Christopher Lloyd. Christopher Lloyd rips farts. That's fun.
Check out Nobody. If you want Christopher Lloyd, check out Nobody.
Yeah, I keep scrolling over Nobody. I got to watch that. I will watch that.
You'll like that.
But yeah, Tender Bars is bland. I wanted it to be more fun. Ben Affleck's a fun uncle, but it's just yeah, that's too bad. Makes me sad inside. And I watched looking at my list here because I forget. Oh, I watched The House of Gucci.
Oh, how was it? I haven't seen that yet.
I didn't know the story, so I'm glad I didn't know the story because I just went in. I was like, "Holy shit!" It's surprise. There's a few surprises in there. Yeah, and I thought Adam Driver was outstanding, and Lady Gaga doing her thing based on this real life woman who was very intense. I learned a ton about her after the fact, so it was fun to kind of dive into the realism of the actual story, which kind of tells you that maybe the movie wasn't that great if I found the real life story more compelling or as compelling.
Yeah.
But I would definitely recommend checking it out. Jared Leto does his best Colin Farrell in terms of disappearing under makeup, and he's bald, and he's this Italian. And I don't know if it's like borderline stereotypical racist, bigoted in a way, because it's so like stereotypical of what an Italian would sound like. But I've never been to Italy and spent a lot of time with Italians directly either, so I don't know.
And it is really don't know. So I imagine there's documentation of him.
Yeah, you would think. But he also got the Razzie recently. The Razzies came out recently, and he got the Razzie for one of the worst performances. So
for that, really?
Yeah, for that. And I was surprised when I heard that because I thought he did a decent job playing this kind of a fool. He plays a fool.
Well, fortunately, those Morbius reviews are coming out and looking real good. Actually, that's been my real. I'm over the slap. I've just been reading Morbius reviews and just laughing. Because it's just people are just ripping this thing to shit.
Oh, it's bad? It's gonna be bad?
It's getting some right now. It's last I checked, it's 4.7 on IMDb. So I mean, it looks like trash, but people are saying it's worse than Venom. So if it's worse than Venom, it's going to be trash.
That is trash. Yeah. Did you watch the first episode of Moon Knight? By the way,
I did. Of course.
Okay, cool. Did you enjoy that first episode without saying anything else?
I absolutely did enjoy it.
Yeah, I look forward to checking that out as well. And I guess House of Gucci. I'd recommend you watch it. See what you think. I mean, it's worth a watch. It's on HBO Max, I believe. Or maybe it's not. Maybe I made that up. Who the hell knows where I found it on? Yeah, I think it's on Eric's server. Actually, that's where I watched it. So who knows? I watched Deep Water. It's a new movie with Ben Affleck.
How was that? I almost watched it, then I was like, Adrian Lynn. No thanks.
It's very, very Adrian Lin.
Right,
it's to a T.
I made the right call then.
Yeah, if you know him and you know what he's gonna do, and we did do an Adrian Lin movie before. We did Jacob's Ladder back in the day.
That's also the least Adrian Lin of the Adrian Lin movies. Like all of his other stuff is very similar.
Yeah, this one's much more Adrian Lin, I would say. So if you're not feeling that, don't check out Deep Water with Ben Affleck and oh crap, I don't know her name. She was a girl from Knives Out. Who
Arna? I'm fucking it up. I don't know.
Yeah, she's great. She's awesome.
Famous. She's very famous.
Well, I spent the first 10 minutes of the movie and like, oh, it's that girl. Who the fuck is it? I refused to look it up, and I finally figured it out. Like, oh, it's a Knives Out girl. Okay, it's her because she looks a lot different.
2049.
Oh yeah, shit. Okay, good call. And that'll do. I started Creed 2, but I didn't finish it, so I'll give an update on that one next time.
Yeah, I've never seen either of the Creeds. I gotta get on that.
Yeah, I saw the first one. I was like, wow, I never saw the second one. That was a long time ago. So I'm just trying to catch up, see if I don't really care that much, but I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Creed on the flip side. All right, there it is. That's our quarantine viewing picks brought to you by nobody in particular. And if you enjoy the show, give us a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Reviews help the show. We really appreciate it. It does make a difference. I'll review something for you if you review us. Whatever it is, I will do it for you. I'm available and willing to work. Not Travis, me. I'm not vouching for you at all. Yes, yeah. He said no. Yeah, there you go. I didn't want to do that. Also, check out Travis and Chad's show. It's great. The Best Film Podcast. I listened to the Pig episode. I loved it because I love Pig, man. Too. So maybe I'm biased. I don't know.
The real best film of 2021. Let's be honest. Pig.
Yes, absolutely. And Pig is so good. Yeah. I love how you guys start the show with like you do a reading of a scene from the movie, and you picked one of my favorite scenes from that movie when they're at the restaurant with that chef. But it's so hard to replicate that chef's face. He's smiling and he turns into terror all at once. It's so good. That guy, whoever that guy was, that acting was incredible.
I forgot his name again already. I learned it for that episode, but I wanted to see a lot more of that guy. The guy that played that chef that just gets deconstructed in that movie is that guy's got a real strong talent, and I want to see a lot more of him.
He impressed me in that one scene. Blew me away.
Came in and killed it like it was like he was some huge actor doing a character, like doing a cameo, and it's just some dude.
Yeah, I know. And I also thought, shit, Chad was in the Ukraine, and then this war broke out. So I was like, what the fuck happened to him? And then I found out the podcast he wasn't there anymore, so that's good. Yeah. And it was just interesting. I was like, oh my God, wow, that's real. But check out the Best Film Podcast. It's a lot of fun if you want to hear two guys. If you already like Travis, then you might as well listen to Chad, who's an outstanding presence. His film analysis is always super, super deep. And it was really funny to hear him talk about how when Crystal came in the room and asked him why he was crying, it was over a pig. So, which sounds weird to people who haven't seen it. So,
because people have preconceived notions about Pig, the movie.
It could sound like a horror movie. It could, like, pig.
Yeah. And it's got Nicolas Cage, and people are, they have mixed feelings about Nick Cage anymore. Not everyone loves him like us. I could say us, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I love Nick Cage. He's cool. I'm not like a super fan, but he's great. There's no doubt about it.
Right. He's
great. Sure. Of course. You also did Palm Springs, and then I realized that you were right because Neon Pictures, which I wasn't really familiar with, they really are on a roll. They do a lot of good movies. They did both of those, and now I'm familiar with who Neon is and what they're doing. So I'm glad I learned that as well.
Yeah, that's a good studio. Everyone's everyone's paying attention to A24. I think Neon is one to watch as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Palm Springs and Pig were both great movies. Alrighty, so there it is. Let's get into our main event now. It's time to find out, does it hold up or not? Me and Travis, mano a mano, with Mara, of course, by our side. We're going to find out whether or not Wag the Dog holds up or not. It's a 1997 movie starring Dustin Hoffman, Robert De Niro, Anne Heche, many more. Willie Nelson's in this movie. Willie Nelson was in this movie and Half Baked the next year. I was wondering if I remember he had tax debts or something, and I wonder if he was trying to pay them off by doing movies, because he wasn't really in movies after that. I know he was in movies when he was younger. He did Honeysuckle Rose and stuff like that back in the day. Yeah.
He had quite a run there. But yeah, I think he's just one of those guys. I mean, he releases an album like still every couple of years, like clockwork or so. I mean, the man, he's on tour on a regular. I think he's just one of those guys that just produces. He just puts out work,
He's a prolific producer. That's right.
He'll do stuff.
Doesn't seem to slow down. He's got to be like in his late 80s. Probably
he's in his mid 80s now.
He's definitely on Death Watch. He's on my Death Watch for Celebrity Death Watch, which has Gene Hackman, Jack Nicholson, those are two of my top ones I'm waiting on. So.
Yeah, his older sister just passed away. She was part of his band, Willie Nelson. So that's sad.
Wow. That is sad.
That is sad. But she was in her 90s. I mean, that happens. But yeah, there's it's
a good run.
The legends are starting to kick off, but not Willie, not yet. We still have him, thank God.
That's right. Dennis Leary's in this movie. It's directed by Barry Levinson, of course. Travis, take us back in time. Do you remember the first time you saw Wag the Dog?
I'm trying to remember. I think it came out Christmas Day, 1997.
Oh.
So I wasn't working in Blockbuster yet, but I was working at Blockbuster by the summer of 98. Or spring even. So I think I saw it then. I think it was like a big rental. I think it was one of the first big releases when I started working there. And so I saw it then and enjoyed it and watched a lot of it. It's one of those movies that, like watching it last night or the night before last, actually, there's this one scene in the movie where Robert De Niro as Connie says, deny, deny, deny. And it's one of those quotes I've walked around for like decades. I mean, I just say that all the time, not knowing it was a quote, but never 100% sure what I was pulling it from. Like, oh, that's where I got that. I just say that all the time.
I've heard that from you many times.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Deny.
Deny.
And that's what it's from.
And that's where it's from. So it's definitely, I enjoyed it. I had not watched it in a very long time. I went and looked back at my list of movies, 2 years ago when we started this podcast. It was number 2 on my, or maybe 3 on my list of like originally like movies I still haven't gotten to, but that I had also been considering for a long time. So that's why I was like, oh, great. Wag the Dog. Finally, we're doing it.
I just wrote this down on a list like 2 months ago, and I really didn't care if I picked it or not. And then when I was up against it last week with Christian on as a guest for Eric, and Eric wasn't going to be here, I had a movie picked out I wanted to do, but I had to table it because I wanted him to be here. So I just audibled and went for Wag the Dog, and that's how we got here, which is a movie I saw on VHS for the first time. Somebody had it on VHS somewhere after it came out on video, and I watched it at someone's house. And I was like, oh, this movie. And I remember there's a lot of talk about it. Morgan would talk about that movie all the time, our friend Morgan. And there was always a constant discussion about how true to life it was or not. And we were silly teenagers on the brink of graduating high school when this movie came out. So it was very believable to me. Like, oh, yeah, this is all real, dude. So,
well, I mean, within months of it coming out, there was that bombing. America bombed that pharmaceutical plant in Sudan, which was like right when the impeachment trials had started, I believe. And then
that's true. The whole Lewinsky stuff really was picking up after this movie came out.
Right. And then there was another similar instance, but you had asked at the start of the show if it was predicting the future. And one of the things I found really interesting in sitting down to watch the movie was the discussion about, I did not realize that Grenada, the occupation of Grenada took place literally on the 25th of October in 1983, when the Beirut bombing of the Marine barracks was on October 23rd of that same year. I mean, it was literally within days. And it's like, oh, that's a clear case of wagging the dog. I mean, it seems pretty fucking obvious to me. And the book that this is based on was actually originally, it was just all about Desert Storm. It was like, they didn't even change like any of the, it wasn't fictional. I mean, it's historical fiction, but it was like all about Desert Storm and that being a ploy for George H.W. Bush to get reelected.
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. Did you look up the score? I did not look up the score.
I did not. I was good for once. I didn't see it. I'm going to guess. I think this is a respected movie. I'm going to say it's in the 7s, but I'm going to say the low 7s. I'm going to say 7.0. 7.0.
Yeah, let's say 7.3. And the actual retail price is 7.1 right there. Right. 7.1, 83,000 reviews. Rotten Tomatoes, 86% of the critics are down. 76% of the audience is down with this. So a little bit of a gap there, and the audience is a little less receptive to this. And I'm not really sure why that is, because you would think they'd be more into it, especially for the time period.
It's that mammoth dialogue.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just can't. Some people,
critics are going to love it, but like, no, it's not for everyone.
That's true, but I don't even think it's that mammoth-y, in my opinion. But I mean, the less of the mammoths, at least in terms of his scripts. But
well, it's,
yeah,
it's
you might be right.
co-written. You know, I mean, like he took a script that was written by what's her name, Hillary Henkin, I think her name was. I should have written that down. The woman that wrote Roadhouse.
Yeah, Hillary Henkin.
Hillary Henkin. Yeah.
The book was by Larry Beinhart.
Yes, Roadhouse scribe Hillary Henkin.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
Yes.
And he took her script when Barry Levinson got signed on for it and drastically reworked it from the sound of things.
Interesting. I always want to know how they changed those things. What's it look like before? What would the movie have been like? Always fascinates me. As far as the reviews, no Dessin, no Goody Coons yet. How about Mickless Sal of the San Francisco Chronicle? Mick says, yeah, between the laughs, there are moments that ring so true, they can raise goosebumps. Ominous, intense. How about a negative review? Mike Clark of USA Today. With this cast, Dog could use a much bigger bite.
Okay, I mean, it's. I can hear that. I mean, this movie it's not structured like most movies, I feel. You know, it doesn't have like a huge climax. It doesn't have it's kind of steady the way the pace is pretty set. The whole, from beginning to end is pretty steady, but it still at the same time, it seems like it doesn't follow a lot of the normal things that movies do. To me.
Yeah, the routines and the acts 1, 2, 3, and here's the conclusion. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. Gene Siskel, we never get to do Gene Siskel on the show. He's always dead for a lot of these movies, which sucks. Yeah, unfortunately. Gene Siskel says, a bright idea well realized by director Barry Levinson. That's it. Simple enough. So,
all right. Thanks, Gene.
Yeah. Thanks, Gene. Rest in power. His buddy Roger Ebert said, absurd and convincing at the same time. 4 out of 4 stars.
I was reading an interview with Barry Levinson from, I think, 2017. And he was talking about how the movie was, using absurdity to satirize reality. And now we're just in absurdity. I'm like, that sounds about right.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for. Oh, boy. I want to do one more negative review here just to get the full scope of this. And, we believe in balance. How about good old Joe Blow? They love movies, so I don't know who this is from Joe Blow. It just says Joe Blow, which is really silly. Yeah. Very, very little humor in this script, despite a few moments of cheeky cleverness. Maybe
he's a MacGruber fan.
Yeah, I bet he is. My kind of guy. I didn't laugh much when I watched this. I'll say that. I really didn't.
No, it's not the kind of, even like as a kid, like it's not the kind of movie you're laughing at exactly. It's a comedy, but I'll tell you what, there is a few moments that are really hilarious, but for the most part, you're not laughing. I'm laughing at, give me my veggie shake, Ramon, and 10 minutes, turn me over so I can tan the other side. There's moments where I'm like, yes. But for the most part, like you just kind of you might be amused or entertained, but you're not laughing at it.
Yeah, when Woody shows up as Willie Schumann, I think they wanted that to be more funny. Possibly he's supposed to be comic relief, but I didn't.
Kind of funny.
It just wasn't laugh out loud funny for me. That's all.
No, you're right. There's.
It's a farce of a situation they're in because they're with this prisoner. They're making this guy out to be this incredible hero of war, and then he's this total
deranged,
rapist. So it's not and Anne Heche is like freaking out because she's stuck on a private plane with this guy, close quarters.
And they set her next to him. Like, of course, that's where you put her. What the fuck?
Right. Yeah. So obviously this movie is about government. It's not even about government so much. It's about political, war room teams that come together to create crises or to resolve crises. Because the original crisis here is that supposedly the president has had this a sexual encounter with a teenage girl. They're called the Firefly Girl, which someone says, is that a Girl Scout? No, it's a Firefly Girl. So I don't know what that implies exactly, if she's underage or not. So.
I think she's supposed to be underage. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes it pretty bad. Knowing that.
Yes.
And that's why they need to create this distraction, because it's 11 days to the election. And that's Robert De Niro. Let's talk about him for a minute. Okay. This is really one of his more underrated roles. He's really, really good in this. He's subdued. He's not out loud, but he's a rock solid, steady character in this movie that is the presence that always keeps the movie kind of grounded in this reality, even though it is absurd at times. And I really want to give him credit. I know we've already given De Niro all the credit in the world, but for this particular role, I want to give him all the love.
I'm with you. You know, Dustin Hoffman was nominated for Best Actor for this performance, but as I watch the movie, as entertained as I am, I see Dustin Hoffman a lot. I see Dustin Hoffman doing a really good Robert Evans impersonation, basically. And but when I see Robert De Niro in this role, like I had not watched this movie since, I don't know, 2000 or so. And when it started, like he walked in, I go, oh, Connie. Like my mind, I remembered his name, you know, not even Conrad Breen. I remembered Connie because, like, to me, he really personifies this character really well. I think it's one of the like it's not an overly dramatic performance for him, but I feel like he really occupies that character.
I agree. I completely agree. And it's just different. It's a more subdued De Niro, which I like when he plays those roles and he still gives you all of the fear. He constantly is telling people, hey, we'll kill you. But he says it in this nonchalant way, which I don't think people really absorb because it seems sarcastic, like such a off the cuff line.
That gets to what has always been my biggest complaint about this movie is the logistics of it and how little sense it makes. You're going to tell me that you got to kill Dustin Hoffman. And I'm guessing Stanley Motz. And I'm guessing it's in part because Stanley Motz is he's picking up a phone to make a call before the election. If I guess
calling into a show, like a talk live show. Yeah.
I guess Conrad Breen's whole thinking is like, so long as the president gets reelected, nothing's going to matter. Like the impeachment hearings aren't a thing. None of this is going to matter. Just if everyone finds out after, it's not going to matter. But like, I'm watching the movie and I'm like, you're telling me that the guy that's holding the boom mic recording this fucking commercial or this Kirsten Dunst orphanage thing, you're telling me that this guy is, what's his name shows up as the dog handler. I forget the guy's name. The guy, speaking of Half-Baked.
Harlan Williams.
Harlan Williams. I knew you'd know. Like, you're telling me that this guy's not going to tell, hey, I just yesterday was at this thing. And like the only warning they get is Breen kind of laughingly tell him, hey, we'll kill you.
Yeah.
Like, who?
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. That was
so many people know the Fad King. Everybody knows. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was the scene where I was like, oh, you're losing me here. Yeah. This girl is a aspiring actress, Kirsten Dunst's character, right. And she's not given any clarity. And they all want these roles. We all know the trope about people coming off to Hollywood to try to make it. She's clearly one of these people, but there's nothing concrete given to her other than you can't tell anybody. They just keep saying that, or you'll be killed, basically. Which would be, I'd be like, wait, what's going on here? Like, right. Am I missing something? It is kind of like hey, just accept it. We got to move on because we need this video for the script to move forward.
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of suspension of disbelief as you see the many levels of involvement in this conspiracy. That's one of the things. It's one of the reasons I'm not a conspiracy theorist. When people talk about like 9/11 being an inside job, I'm like, yeah, sure. Tens of thousands of people colluded together to make sure. I just, it's.
Well, but what bothers me about the movie then is that there's all this effort made to create these hoaxes about a fake war and music and everything else, the whole production, right? But they couldn't come up with
the people in these two industries will sell their soul for power, for influence, for clout, and for a chance to be, for credit. It's one of the things that I also found interesting is like, I never, from the get-go, Stanley Motz is saying, I'm doing this for the credit. I don't get enough credit as a producer. I'm doing this for the credit. And then it's like at the end of the movie comes and it's like, oh.
No credit for you. No credit for you. Hey, buddy, you still there?
I'm right here.
Oh, no credit. Yeah. No credit. No credit for you.
No credit for you.
That's right. Who else do you really enjoy this film? Anne Heche is, it's good to see Anne Heche. Anne Heche used to be a big deal back in the day, especially during this era. This was the big big moment of her career. The 6 Days, 7 Nights was a year after this, and
wasn't she derailed by Harvey Weinstein? Was she one of the ones that was? I know her. Or was it her that when she came out that her career? For a minute, she was just so hot in everything in the late '90s, and then
I had a major crush on her back in the day. I thought, and I loved her as an actress. I was all about Anne Heche, but Once Upon a Time.
Well, she's good in this. I mean, I think she's good for the role. She's very convincing in the role.
Yeah. She has a real way with her voice. She can really come across with a point so strongly, the way she can really sell it. And I've always appreciated that about her. And I always thought she was kind of underrated, but it's not a role where there's a lot to do. She's like the side secondary person to Connie in a way, where Connie is running the show, and she does what she could do with it. And that really goes for everybody. I mean, Leary's character, again, he comes up with ideas here and there, but
he's just showing up. I mean, Dennis Leary is it's a glorified cameo, basically. At this point,
talk about glorified cameos. Craig T. Nelson is never shown like in an actual scene. He's always on a TV. Right. All they did is record him on like a camcorder, and that was it.
You're right. Merle Haggard just kind of showing up. He wrote that Courage Mom song for the movie. He also doesn't really show up in
Courage
the
Mom.
Courage Mom. He's on TV.
Good old shoe.
And then who else? What's his name? Pop Staples just kind of pops in for one scene.
Hey, Pops!
Yeah, Pop Staples. So there's a lot of pop ins. You know, Huey Lewis wrote the fucking 303 song. Speaking of we're all musicians here,
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. He's not in the movie. It would have been cool if he would have fit right in. Huey Lewis would have fit right in this movie.
He could have played the Leary character. It would have been perfect.
It would have been better.
Ooh, you got a beef with Dennis Leary as an actor, or is it just his role?
No, I'm just kidding. I just like Huey Lewis.
You love the Ref, so.
I do love the Ref, and I like Dennis Leary. I'm just busting balls.
Oh, that's okay. Well, I don't think Dennis will ever hear about it. He doesn't watch our show, as far as I know.
Dennis, if you're listening, call Greg Dooley and tell him I said hi.
Perfect. Yeah, I knew that would be the opportunity you would take to say that. We're talking live on the Cinema Night podcast. We're talking about Wag the Dog, 1997 movie. Does it hold up or not? I don't know. We'll find out in a little while. Okay, so this movie as a symbol for where we were then, what had happened before. Watergate shit happened in the 70s. Kennedy happened in the 60s. You had the Lewinsky stuff, and then, of course, the Reagan-Grenada stuff in the 80s, Iran-Contra in the 80s, and now we have the world that we live in today, where everything happened after this. We have 3 years after this, we have the 2000 election, which was a total shit show. Mm-hmm. And is this a more prescient film now that we're sitting here in 2022, or is it just...
Well, see, I don't think it's prescient. I think it's just revealing about the way things actually work and have worked, because I think that this rings true if you're looking at Grenada. I think it rings true if you're looking at the ghost of Kyiv, right? You know what I'm talking about? Do you know what I'm talking about? So
I guess I don't.
With the invasion of Ukraine, for a hot minute, there was all this footage coming out of like the ghost of Kyiv, what they call, there was like this fighter pilot that was killing all these Russian, taking down all these.
Oh,
Russian
yeah.
It turned out that the dude, it was like footage from a fucking video game.
No shit. Yeah, I read a couple things about that. Like, oh, good for them. All right.
Right.
I'm a fucking sucker. God damn it.
Your wag got tailed or dogged or whatever.
It certainly did. Whatever happened to me happened to you, happened to everybody. Damn it.
Well, and that's the thing, is that, like, it's not that we're all suckers. We, like, you how can I put this? I still believe in journalism. I believe, and I don't think that the media is inherently, I don't think that everything on the news is a lie. I think that approaching the world from that perspective is how you fall into conspiracy theories and not believing very obvious things. I mean, speaking of the slap, within moments of that shit happening, you have people across the world be like, oh, didn't happen. Not even in the States, just like, it didn't even happen. Like, what are you talking about? What are you even talking about? Like, you're so fucking jaded. Anyways.
Well, you can't blame people. The institutions have failed people too. So I understand why they feel that way, though. I hear it. I really do.
The institutions failed, and that's the fault of people like Nixon and others, many others. Not he's a
dullest
easy fallback.
A lot of assholes on behind the scenes that we don't even know about half the time, and that's what this movie's about to me.
Or even Johnson. I as a historian, I often find myself saying nice things about Lyndon Johnson, and then like you watch the Post as I did this week, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot the fucking Pentagon Papers. I know.
Yeah, but he tried to do some good things that help poor people. He really did. So again, nothing is black and white. These are all gray areas, and everybody's involved. Just like this film, there are people here who think they're doing good. Connie. Imagine being Connie. Like, he's a really jaded guy in a way. Not even a way. He's flat out jaded.
Oh yeah, he is like soulless.
Yeah,
it's creepy. He comes across like this grandpa, but really he is a depraved individual.
Big time. But he believes, or at least he thinks he's doing what's best or what's the right thing here. But I don't know if he thinks about the country, because he really has shitty things to say about the people in general. And whenever anybody challenges him in this movie, challenges Robert De Niro's character Connie, he quickly has shitty things to say about the people. People are like, whoa, people will buy this? Like, you think we could really pull this off? And then he'll give an example of something he was a part of in the past as like a historical example, right?
Yeah.
So
you're right. I mean, I don't think he gives a shit about the country at all. And I'm going to quote Anne Heche's character when she talks about if we pull this off, she says that we will have the gratitude of our president and our party. That's why they're doing it. That's why they're doing it. They're partisans. They're fucking partisans. They have it's all about power. It's all about the power for their guy, for their party. And that's it. The same old fucking crazy idea that if you have political power, you will hold on to it indefinitely in this country. Like, what is the whole thing is based around sharing. Yet here we are.
Yep. And if anything, it's only gotten more partisan. We already know that though today.
Yeah, we do.
So that's, in a way, that's why this movie, I would wonder if people who are in politics today saw this movie when they were younger, or even inspired by it. Like, oh yeah, I want to be like this. I want to be like that person. Or just, sociopaths and power hungry people who they lead. We talked about this yesterday on Is It Safe Pod that I do about, unfortunately, it seems like some of the best leaders, or the people who are leaders, are sociopaths or psychopaths, because they're calculating and they don't have that emotive or empathetic part of them that can stop them from doing something that could be really quite cruel to a number of people. And they will just, forward ahead. This is what needs to be done. I'm the person to do it. And they ended up in charge because they're not afraid to do the dirty work, so to speak, which is, dirty work implies in politics usually the loss of life a lot of times. And that's not a joke to me.
I mean, I don't think it should be a joke to anybody. I mean, I can only imagine when you're working at these levels, you no longer view individuals as individuals. You're
talking groups.
Yeah, you think in the aggregate.
Yeah.
Which that doesn't excuse anything, but I mean, it does make sense. I also think that there's also. I lost my thread as you were talking. I was listening and I forgot what I was going to say, but that's good. It's good for me to listen and let go of what I want to say. I'm working on that, be a better listener. So that I'm glad I could exercise that on this podcast with you.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to know what you're going to say. Well, I guess
I have no idea.
If it comes back to you before the show ends, let us know. Just jump in. So the way Dustin Hoffman's disposed, his character is murdered because, like you said, he wanted to tell everybody he wanted credit. He didn't care about the money. It was all about the credit. Producers never win Academy Awards. There's no Academy Award for producers. Oh, they do now. Okay.
Yeah, if you win Best Picture, it goes to the producer.
Oh, that's true. But I thought that was always the case. Like when you won. No?
Just like the last 10 years or so, I want to say, maybe 15.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess recency bias for me there.
It used to go to the directors, which doesn't, why have a Best Directors category? And you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, that's why I guess I always thought the producer showed up there, but I'll take your word for it. I do know that they carry him off, and he kind of just goes with this big huddle of Secret Service dudes into a little stretch mini limo thing there, and that's it. We know that he dies because, we know that he's dead because the news reporter said he died.
Yes,
and the movie kind of just wraps up.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a little anticlimactic, that they accomplish what they want to do. I guess the plane crash is the climax, but I mean they're acting. They're like Blues Brothers about it. They're completely unfazed by it. They just get up, dust themselves off, and keep moving. So it doesn't really feel like a climax so much as it feels like continued hilarity and hijinks, I guess. Because there isn't. I don't think there's really a proper climax to the movie, and that's
You're right.
And I have seen this movie a lot, but it had been a long time since I've seen it. And that third act, I got on my phone. I didn't mean to, but like I started to be like, okay, I get where this is going. All right.
Yeah. It's, there's a certain point. They always seem to stumble into a roadblock, like when Craig T. Nelson's character ends the war.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we're screwed. The war's ended. Dustin Hoffman's like, no, we're just getting going here. He's like, you think this is, he says that throughout the movie. You think this is a problem? You think this is nothing? This is nothing. Every time they run into something, he's just the master producer. He's always got another trick up his sleeve.
He's got some story from his past he can compare it to.
Exactly. Right. This is nothing. And with that kind of, it's almost, I don't want to call it, like the, what do they call it? What's the thing in a movie where I'm spacing out?
I have no idea.
It just shows up and
MacGuffin?
It fixes everything. Yeah.
Oh,
in a way.
Like a Deus Ex Machina?
Yes. Like it's just like they're out every time because this is nothing to him and he can always do it. So what's next? I'll show you the tricks.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. This pacing in this movie, is it slow to you or was it like just fine?
I don't think it's slow. I think it's actually a little like it could have some slower moments in a way. But then when the slow moments do come, it loses my attention. Like the conversation between Connie and
Bill Macy.
And yeah, exactly. So at that scene, and then like after that scene, like is when the movie started to lose my interest the first time. You know what I mean? Like it's like there's all there. It is kind of go, but when you have actual like stop and have conversation moments, they actually get a little bit dull.
Yeah, like Connie sold. So Bill Macy's a CIA representative agent apparently who he doesn't believe there's a war, and then Connie somehow sells it to him at the table there, and or at least they think that they sold it to him because after the fact. CIA cuts a deal with the opponent of the president,
right?
Craig T. Nelson.
I mean, he doesn't sell them that there's an actual war. He sells them that it benefits CIA to.
I didn't know what he sold them on. To be honest, it was just confusing. He was just talking.
Yeah, he sells them. He's saying that if there is no war, what the fuck are you here for? Why do you exist if there's no foreign threat? So he convinces him that it's in CIA's best interest to let America believe there is a war.
Oh, okay. I'll take your word for it because I kind of spaced out. I was like, what?
That's understandable. The movie kind of does that. I guard the Canadian border. Sorry.
Some good songs. The songwriting in this movie is one of the highlights, frankly. I do enjoy all these songs.
And I'll gladly stand up. Basically, that's what that is, right?
It's exactly what that is.
Is that choir the same choir that did the In Memoriam for the Oscars the other night?
Uh-oh. Travis did not like that. He does not want happy times when people are dead. I learned that. So.
I understand. No, I understand. Like I love New Orleans funeral. Like I understand celebrating someone's life. I just thought that the In Memoriam it was like weirdly like jazzy and like peppy. It was peppy.
Someone would show up every 30 seconds with a commentary about the dead person. That was actually cool.
I didn't mind that,
Bill Murray said something about Ivan Reitman, and I didn't know Ivan Reitman was, his parents were at the Holocaust and stuff. I didn't know that. That was like, oh, okay, I learned something there. But the way it was done, it was like, hey, whoop, 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 whoop.
And it was a medley. I mean, it was a fucking medley. Like
it was a medley.
Like a show tune.
Yeah.
I mean, they were doing everything with the can.
Well, I don't know if it's the same choir or not, but, that basically We Are the World song that they're doing. And then, the senator ends the war and they're like, shut it down, shut up. I do love that Willie Nelson's trying to conduct them. And then they're like, shut up, turn it off. And I laughed there. That might have been my biggest laugh, actually.
Yeah. And he turns around with Pops and starts working on another song. Just like
Good Old Shoe. I need a song right now. Good Old Shoe, which they put into the Library of Congress, made it sound like it was from 80 years ago, 70 years ago. And it worked, I guess. I can actually... that's a tough sell. There's a lot of historical documentation more than ever these days. I don't know if they could pull that off.
Yeah, that was one that kind of bothered me too. But I mean, especially since they also do the Merle Haggard Courage Mom song. So it's like if you're trying to have like in the space, because this is all taking place within less than 11 days, right? So you're telling me within a matter of a couple days, you need to produce 2 separate songs about Schumann. I think one's fine, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
I did like though that like immediately after these events take place, it cuts to like factory workers and they're all wearing these shirts that are like fuck Albania. And I worked in a factory when the Iraq War broke out, and that was very accurate.
I'm so glad you brought this up because I almost would have forgotten about that. That
most realistic thing in the movie.
It just made me really sad too. I thought it was very poignant and true, but it bummed me out. I was like, shit. God, that seems too real to me. It almost made me uncomfortable there for a moment. And I'd forgotten about that for this moment because we're live and sometimes I forget things. But wow, yeah, that was awkward as hell because people get behind these causes. When I was 10 years old, same age as you were, and the Iraq War broke out, the first Desert Storm, and yellow ribbons everywhere. And Whitney Houston did the national anthem at the Super Bowl that year, and everybody thought it was the
shirts, all these Bart Simpson shirts with him like nuking Iraq and shit.
Yeah, that's right. Like Calvin pissing on every Ford sign. Those are so stupid. That's what reminds me of that. But yes, that is also pretty quick to get that out in 11 days. We're talking, again, if you start to think about the time frame they're in, it starts to get a little absurd. Like, oh, we print all these shirts and they're across America, and this really just happened in the last 24 hours. This is not 2022. This is 1997. There is a difference.
But by the same token, like, I don't know that there's government, like, there's people working for Connie that are putting out these shirts. I get the feeling that it's opportunists that will profit off of whatever recent thing is in the news, and that
we saw that 4 years later at 9/11. You're right, the Patriot packs, and exactly. You're right. That was only a couple years later. So yeah, you're right.
And that was, I think, one of the things from the movie that I think is a little undersold, that they should have and like the impact of all this on real life would be better, because it's so much just focuses on the spin. Like, it would have been cool to see like a little cut away to people not involved with this and printing up the shirts. Like, yeah, we're gonna make all kinds of money. Or like at the end of the movie, we hear that there's these Albanian terrorists, and it's like, I feel like these are real terrorists at the end of the movie. I think
that's what I felt too.
Right. And I think that should have been a little bit more like, it's the last thing we hear in the movie, but it's like, it's not really focused on in a way.
It's actually what Kanye described earlier in the movie when he said the real threat will be a small group of terrorists with a nuclear bomb or something. It won't be these giant country on country. And then he may have been right. What he talked about possibly is true at the end of the film. I had the same reaction.
And that, of course, wasn't super prescient necessarily, because that was the entire Clinton White House was saying this towards the end of its administration, that terrorism is the future. This is what we have to really be focused on.
We had the first World Trade Center bombing in '93. So
exactly. So it wasn't that that came from the mind of Barry Levinson or David Mamet or Hillary
not at all. Yep. Yeah. I agree with that. I really would have loved to get some more man on the street. Outside of that, we're stuck with this crew for the whole movie. Basically, we don't really get outside of the scope of them. Yeah, like even if there's only one of them in a scene, there's always one of them involved in basically every scene in the movie, unless there's Craig T. Nelson on the video.
No, but even then they're watching them. So yeah, you're right. They're in every scene.
That's why I wonder what the previous script would have been like. Was there more of that? Was there more of like, hey, we're getting the perspective of the everyday people who are seeing this outside of what they know to be true, and how do they react to it? I agree with you. I think that's a missed opportunity, and might have made for a better film. Not that I have to have that, but I'm actually more fascinated by that aspect, I think.
On the other hand, since this is an unconventional picture and there isn't like a really clear climax other than, I guess, Stanley Mott's dying, it's fairly streamlined. Maybe they didn't want to get too far into the weeds and and spend time with these other characters, because it is pretty convoluted, and it's very rapid pace. There's like, I've watched this movie so many times, and I never noticed, for instance, that at one point Stanley Motz turns to Conrad Breen and says, "What time is it?" He goes, "Oh, it's 3:03 in the morning," and Stanley goes, "Oh, it's perfect." And then like 3:03 ends up being recurring throughout the rest of the movie. It's the name of Old Shoes, his unit and all that shit. It's like, oh man, they really you have to pay attention.
And it's an hour and 37-minute movie too, so it's not that long.
That's
You're right.
surprising for what it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They might have had a little more wiggle room to play around, and I would have been into that. But yeah, I also felt the way you did towards the end too. So maybe I would have been like, I'm done with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of starts to wear out its welcome. There's no character that you're into. You know what I mean? There's no character that you are enjoying spending time with. There's no character that you're like when Stanley Motts dies, you're not like, oh, I feel so bad. Like, you don't give a fuck. Like, well, probably shouldn't have done that, Stanley. You know?
Hey, never change horses midstream. Man.
Oh God, it's so funny. It's the worst. They're running on incumbency. That's it. Hey, that's all we got to offer. Incumbency.
Yeah. Current person we have is a total piece of shit. That's fine. You don't change horses midstream, which is also a really dated reference. And so I looked it up later. I'm like, oh, never change horses midstream. That sounds so early 1900s or something in a way. And then sure enough, it was from the fucking Lincoln campaign. It was even older than that. It was the 1860s.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, people don't really relate to this anymore, I don't think. So.
But that was one of the things I did like in the movie when Conrad's talking about all the old war slogans, and we remember the slogans and forget the war.
Tippecanoe and Tyler too.
Yeah, that's 54-40 or fight and all that shit. That's not a bad point. You walk around in America and ask people about those things. They've probably heard of them. You ask them what they're related to, they might not remember.
Right. Lusitania, all that shit. You're right. Remember the Maine. God, that was frightening. I will give them full credit for that. That freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Anything else we haven't covered, Travis? Any other notes there? I don't really have anything else to say, I don't think.
Albanian restaurants absolutely exist. At one point they say in the movie, do they exist? No one knows. And I'm like, you've clearly never been to Detroit.
Dude, Jim Belushi showed up. That was fucking funny. I forgot about that. Yeah. That made me laugh. Thank you, Jim Belushi, for being a good sport and doing that clip in the movie. That was funny.
I cannot believe, Barry Levinson clearly has a lot of friends in Hollywood. As you see in a lot of the movies that he does, he often brings in big actors and big cameos and that kind of stuff. I just cannot get over the fact that the movie he did before this was fucking Sleepers. It seems so different. I had no idea that he directed Sleepers until I looked him up. I looked up his filmography. Oh, yeah? I didn't know that was he wrote, adapted the screenplay and directed that. I'm like, that just feels so different from this. And Toys feels so different from this. Like so much stuff that he's done has been.
Men in Black came out the same year as this too.
His career is, he does everything. The Bay, that horror documentary style feature he did a couple years. He does such wildly different movies. You got to respect that.
Oh, he's got a killer resume. There's no doubt about it. I actually should probably give him more credit. For some reason, I hear his name and I always think of Men in Black and I dismiss him sometimes because I don't love Men in Black.
I kind of do too. And then I was looking at his filmography and I was like, shit, there's so many stuff. So diverse too. There's just huge leaps of differences between the genres. It's cool.
That's a great point. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. He definitely deserves credit as, now we're where we are in 2022. I know he does some HBO movies too. Some of those. He loves the historical retellings. He doesn't just do that either, like you said.
Yeah. Last thing he did, I haven't seen, but I'm going to watch. It was Rock the Casbah. That was 2015. So he's kind of taking a break. Dude. I heard it wasn't great. That's why I didn't watch it. But
I saw it too. Yeah, it wasn't. I was excited. I thought it would be fun. Bill Murray, Rock the Casbah.
Yeah, I'll adjust.
He did The Wizard of Lies. That's what it was for HBO a few years ago. That was good.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. And De Niro again. Yeah, he works a lot with the same people, with Hoffman, with De Niro, with Robin Williams. He definitely had a lot of people he worked with over and over again. Good Morning Vietnam.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that is true.
Man
you're right
of the
about
Year
that.
and stuff.
Yeah, you don't know Jack. He did with the Al Pacino with our buddy here, our local Michigander,
Jack Kevorkian.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot his name.
He did.
So, he did Man of the Year. I kind of like that one.
Yeah, so. I kind of like that one too. That was okay.
You're a good man, Barry Levinson. You've had a fine career, and you should give yourself a pat on the back.
We like you. Good job, Barry.
We approve of you. Does that matter? All right. Well,
yeah,
just the two of us today.
Yeah, so it makes sense for it to wrap up a tick early, I guess. Mara is out like a light. I think I've said everything I want to say, and none of it as enthusiastically as I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
Kind of a drab episode. In fairness, Eric, we miss you.
Yeah, it's just not the same without you, Eric.
Not.
If anything, Eric, you should learn something from this, how important you are to the show, because sometimes Eric questions, his validity, and he's a great entertainer. Always has been. I'll go first. I'll start here. I'll lead the way. We said a lot of things about this movie that are definitely topical. You could talk about a lot of stuff from this movie for hours. We could have endless conversations, philosophical debates, and how much is reality and what is not, and how much does what appears to be reality create the reality we're in. We could go in a lot of different directions with this film. Mm-hmm. But this is a film podcast. We're looking at the movie itself, and it's kind of boring at times. Even though it's got a couple great lines that you could quote. Deny is, that'll always be in the Hall of Fame, but that doesn't make for a good movie necessarily. And Barry Levinson is a great director, so we just said that, but still, the star power you have in this movie is strong. But a lot of the times, I'm just kind of like, looking at my watch and like, maybe I'll go on a website here. I'm sitting here and I'm watching it, and maybe it says a lot about how just completely jaded. Even if you don't think you're a jaded person, there's a percentage of jadedness, if you will, that used to not be as prevalent 20 plus years ago. It just creeps up a little bit more for each human who's brought onto this planet, who lives in this country in particular. You're going to have that within your bones, even if you don't recognize it. So I would say that the movie is cool because it doesn't follow this typical formula that we talked about.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think it's that entertaining. It's thought-provoking, which is very important to me. I'm really, really on the fence here. I'm going to say, as a film, it just doesn't quite hold up. I'm going to say it doesn't, but it's certainly thought-provoking. But as an entertainment piece or something I want to sit down and watch, it's not something I'm that motivated to watch again, frankly.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can echo a lot of what you just said. I think this is not nearly as entertaining as I remembered it being. It is more unconventional than I remember it being, which is cool. It is seriously, I said this already, but it is honestly, I mean, I don't know that I've seen a more cynical film. I mean, it's so fucking deeply cynical, and it only makes more sense now. So in some ways, it just kind of like almost feels quaint, in that, like, by the standards of 1997, it was like, oh, this is kind of kind of grim, but funny. And now it's like, well, this is just reality. This is just like this. There's not a lot shocking here, because it just feels like we already live in this postmodern kind of what the fuck is even happening in reality, or lack thereof. Anyways, I do think it's interesting. I think it's, as a cultural novelty, I think it's important. I think that it's like a time capsule in a way that has applicability both to the past and to now, before it came out and since, which is cool. And so as I think about it and talk about what it does as a movie, like what it accomplishes, what it covers in terms of commentary and satire, that I think is really valuable and important, and people should watch it. And if you haven't seen it in a long time, I do think you should rewatch it. Does it hold up as a good movie? I'm going to say 51%. It just barely does. But if you had said that it didn't, I probably would have gone in the other direction. I feel like it, you know what I mean? Like I'm kind of, I felt very in the middle on this movie. I really did. So to have one up and one down, and neither one particularly enthusiastic in how we feel about that ruling, feels right to me, because it's a fairly middling movie that has some unique things to say about American culture that maybe you don't need to bother being reminded about. But I think that it does have cultural value. I think it has value. So for that, I'll give it. It holds up, but it's not something I think you need to rush and rewatch if you haven't watched it in a while.
I would wonder what the masses say about the film. And if you've never seen it, I agree with what Travis said. Please do watch it. I think it does need to be examined by certain people who maybe have a strong trust in their government, or they just believe everything they've seen. You need to question things more and be considerate of the fact that maybe not everything as it appears to be, which maybe we know that more now and it's just commonplace. So it's not really necessary for this movie to tell us that. But
yeah, I don't think that's not a concern for me anymore. I actually had a conversation with someone similar to this earlier today, that I used to worry a lot about kids in the future, or kid now, I guess, being way too credulous and just like believing too much. But I watch stuff with my students all the time, and like we'll just see a clip of Iceland. CGI, it's not real. That's not real. They don't believe fucking anything, dude. These kids are so skeptical. They don't believe anything. They see the Northern Lights. That's not real. They don't believe anything they see. For whatever that's worth.
Yeah. They're actually in good hands in terms of skepticism. You're right. I agree.
Maybe too good of hands is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it might be too convoluted now. That is possible. But there it is. Wag the Dog. Me and Travis, we did our episode. We talked about Wag the Dog. Did it hold up or not? It was a split vote. Eric, I'm sure he'll comment on it next week when he returns to the show. And then after him, we're going to have on special guest Steve Laskowski. That'll be very exciting.
Actually, we have Steve first. We have Steve next. And
he's Eric next week.
Yes, Eric. Steve is next week. And well,
then why did Eric send me his choice unless it was Steve Laskowski's choice?
Because did
I misinterpret
the next episode is the 7th. Yeah,
that's true. You're right. Eric sent me a text. Michael, my pick for next week is blank. Please confirm.
Well, because we had all discussed, the three of us.
I agree. No, April 7th was the date for Steve Laskowski. You're right.
That was the date for Steve Laskowski, and that Christian was taking Eric's turn because Eric was gone.
Yeah, you'll have to wait, Eric. Steve's on next week. Do we have Steve's pick, by the way?
We do have Steve. And Steve has been counting on the 7th as being his day, so let's not take that away from him.
Oh, we're definitely doing that. Yeah.
Okay.
So Eric wasn't paying attention. He fucked me up.
We'll get back to our regular schedule after next week. Well, actually, we're getting to our regular schedule next week, and that we have our guest as we ordinarily would.
We do.
And that guest
That's right.
Is our dear friend who we've talked about many times on the show, Steve Laskowski, and he has brought to us for next week. We're returning to our second look at the work of David O. Russell. We're going to look at 1999's Three Kings.
Oh, really? Three Kings.
Three Kings. That's what we're
doing.
Back to 1999. I haven't seen it in a real long time.
I only saw it once, and I saw it like 17 years after it came out. And I love David O. Russell.
Fan. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, but that was one I just kind of skipped over. So I think I watched it after my Silver Linings Playbook infatuation. So
I saw it. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it next week, but
I think we will, because that'll be next week's episode.
Yeah, we might discuss it, and we'll have Eric back, and we'll have Steve with us. So it'll be
the whole crew,
double the voices that you're hearing on this episode. Thank you so much, everybody. Eric, we missed you and we love you. Everybody, we love and miss you too. Why not? And we really appreciate you checking us out. You could, if you want to help us out. We don't ask for much. We don't want any of your money. We just want you to go on whatever Spotify or Apple, whatever, and just give us a 5-star rating. Thank you. That's all we ask.
No money. Yes, please. No money. God, no.
No Patreon account. We just need 2 seconds of your time, please.
Don't ask for much. It's true. You're right about that. Okay, that's it. Great job, Travis. That was fun. Mara, say bye, and we'll catch you guys next week.
I like the nightlife. I like the boogie.